If you like a quick and easy and affordable way to back up your ESXi hypervisor itself, well, then this video is for you. After a lot of testing and trial and error, I found a way to reliably clone USB drives and make a backup image of them. That's easy to run under, say, a Windows laptop, which is what we're recording here in this video. Now, on the right is the server that the USB drive is going to come from once I shut down ESXi. And on the left is some articles that highlight what I'm about to show you. Let me just start with this article. ESXi moving to 6.7 from any 6.0 version. Like any upgrade, it has some risks. And my articles say, please, with a red warning, back up your hypervisor first, and I get into a little bit of detail here on the tool. Now, under Windows, there's some tricks. One, something like this drive, 32 gig, is very common and affordable, under $12 generally. If you have two of them, you can easily clone from one to the other, or at least clone to a hard drive an image file of ESXi before you start monkeying around with what's on there. Okay, I can't emphasize that enough. Even better, label that USB drive so you don't forget what it is months later, that backup you make. Now, Rufus is a tool that we can take an ISO and make a bootable USB drive out of it. That article covers that, but it's also a tool that lets you repurpose ESXi drives back to full capacity. Windows and its disk management will get confused by ESXi formats, so that ruled out a lot of competitors like WinImage, Odin, and then there's EasyOS, who makes backup software and cloning software, and Aomi, who also makes free trials of backup and cloning software. Those all failed. CloneZilla might do it, but then you got to boot under Linux. Definitely more complicated than this, what I'm about to show you. And that is, go back a little bit. Oops, there we go. That is Alex's Coding Playground that has this thing called USB Image Tool. Let me go back to the home page there for the product. So if you Google for it, this is the page you'll land on. And there's some screenshots. So it fits the bill for simplicity and ease of use, and it focuses on USB, but it should work with SD as well if it's USB mounted, I believe. But again, the focus here is on what I've tested myself extensively with many different downloads and a whole lot of trial and error. So once you land on this page, I'm going to go ahead and grab the tool and download it. So it's a zip file. We're going to need to unzip that, but here's another nice feature about it. It's portable. There's no installer. It's not installing any shell extensions. It's not going to muck with my Windows 10 in any way. All right, cool. File's downloaded. It's tiny. It's fast. The server's obviously booted here. Not the most typical way to shut down from the local interface, though. So how about I just shut down from the web user interface that anyone has, even people with a free hypervisor that have a desire to back up their ESXi environment. Not just the configuration, by the way. There's many utilities, including VMware official documentation, how to back up your ESXi config. This video is focused on cloning the whole thing. So you can just put the USB drive in a shelf or keep the image file stowed away somewhere on a hard drive to revert to at any moment in time. Really good for beta testing as well. So I'm shutting down the hypervisor. Now, I didn't put it in maintenance mode. I didn't want to assume you have a cluster where you'd worry about that. The focus here is on simplicity. But if you do have VMs running, of course, naturally, you're having some downtime for those VMs. Okay, so we're shutting down the host that we're going to clone from, right? Now, tools like CloneZilla, if you mount an ISO, you can do cloning of USB drives on a server from one to another, but what you're missing there is an easy way to also save an image file, okay? Same with ddcopy on Linux. So I like the technique I'm showing you in that the only prereq is a Windows machine with USB ports on it. And mine happens to be a laptop with 2 USB 3 ports. Also important for top speeds on getting this job done. So I'm going to close that because we're done with host client. And you know what? I'll just minimize that when I bring that up again later. All right. So next, we've got it downloaded. We've got the code ready. How about I go ahead and extract it? And I'm going to run it. Now, in this directory, you'll see it's quite a playground here. Over several days, a whole lot of testing. The one we just downloaded is usbit.zip. I'm going to extract that. And go into that folder. All right. Now, when we run it, at the moment, it's not going to find anything. I have no drives inserted. So I'll just point that out. So I'm going to close that and then mention to you that I'm going to go grab the physical device out of the front of the server. So in this case, my server looks like this. I actually have some pictures in an article from a few weeks ago here. And I'm literally just taking the USB drive right out of the front of the system from my lab here. Then I'm going to carefully label it. Right back, now that it's shut down. Okay, earlier when we had ESXi built and booted and up, we could see the build number from the vSphere web client, host client it's called. So when you point your browser straight to an ESXi server, also known as a host, you call it host client. That's the web UI. So before you shut down, you should go ahead and create that label on the left, the source one, with the build number and all that, so you know what it is if you pick it up months or years later. And then go ahead and label the USB drive as you pluck it out of the server once it's gracefully shut down. I went ahead and made an identical label, almost identical label, with my terrible handwriting in pencil, because it might change, like say I want to go to 6.7 or something, but in general, you're probably going to leave that very cheap label on there, and that one's called target. That's the one that we're going to clone to. All right, pretty simple. Now, I'm going to go ahead and insert them into the system that has the imaging tool. So remember imaging USB image tool? Here we go. Now I'm inserting the source into the laptop. Okay, so device recognition should happen. And I don't have system audio recording. Sorry about that, but you should hear the recognition tone from Windows, right? And now we run USB image tool. With the source inserted, you can see the SanDisk drive showing up on the left. And if we highlight it, we can see some details about it. Now, a couple of things to point out. You want to be in device mode. That's important for the type of clone operation we're doing. We're cloning the entire drive. And in a way, I actually like that it doesn't let you clone straight to another USB drive. This intermediate hop will give us an image file for long-term, backup software to grab onto, be able to get even if you lose the USB drive. So I'm going to click backup. I didn't have to restart the product. I could have used the rescan button right there. That would have worked fine. All right, so it's asking me where do I want to save it. All right, pretty good name. Looks like I forgot to use the host name last time I was doing some testing here, but I'm going to give it a host name on what it came from. So my home lab, this is meaningful to me. It's the type of ZND I was installed on. So that shows me what version of ESXi, build number. Looks like I also forgot that. All right, so that's the version of ESXi, and I could shorten that file name up a little bit. There you go. It's a decent name. And that's all I really need so that I know what the heck it is that I'm creating. Now, I will say, compared to some of the other tools, it is on the slower side. I want to also point out, while we wait for this to complete, that it's slow, partly because it's cloning every bit on the whole drive. All right. And then finally, if you're cloning to another target drive, like I'm going to be doing, you want the same size or bigger. So this is not going to be dynamically shrinking or sizing anything for you. For instance, if we had a 64 gig USB, I believe it'll just leave half of it empty. And that's fine for our purposes for ESXi. So yes, you need the same or greater capacity. It can't be a tiny bit less. I believe that'll fail. So just some caveats to point out. Also, you don't want to use a USB hub. You want to directly connect your USB thumb drive or memory, maybe even an SD card and a USB adapter. So you want to attach your media directly to the laptop. And in my case, it's a USB 3 device and a USB 3 port for maximum speed. So we're going to wait for this imaging process to finish. The drive is going to warm up quite a bit, and it's going to take a while. So it's a good point to kind of take a break and come back when it's done. Okay, that finished while I wasn't looking. So sorry I didn't show you the end of the 100% as it got to 100%, but basically it just simply returned to this screen. And that's okay, because I actually want to show you a technique for viewing the file that was saved. Okay, so we saved into this directory. Let's sort by date modified. Okay, so it jumps to the top of the list, and you'll notice what I've done here is I went into more, and I said I want to see not just date modified, but also date created. And that gave us this column right here. So it started at 5 minutes after the hour, and it finished at 10 minutes the hour. So in 5 minutes, we had a full image. Enough of that. All right, next. What are we doing? Well, it's time to put the target in. So you're supposed to gracefully eject devices. Interesting that it doesn't show up. I'm going to go ahead and pop that out. Safe ejection is more an issue when you're writing, but okay. I put the target in. And now we've got a couple things to consider. If we just go ahead and hit rescan, it finds the new device, the serial number, and this stuff should change on the screen here. But if we go to restore it, we'll probably get an error. Let me show you what that is. So here's the file we did at 9:10 today. And immediately you get this error. So if you see this error, you're probably going to Google it and you'll find my article, hopefully, which tells you, oh, simple fix, just go ahead and use Rufus. So you remember I mentioned Rufus could help us repurpose a drive, like right here. Hey, it lets you easily reformat a drive, right? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and download Rufus from the source, and you'll see how easy it is to use this portable version, the latest. Also, very little to it, and it looks like I already had that downloaded right there. All right, so Rufus is our friend. I'm going to go ahead and close anything that might have a lock in the USB drive. I'm going to keep the video crisp, avoiding other errors that might pop up. Okay, so when you run Rufus, the very first time, it hasn't built an ini file yet, so I'm going to delete that. All right, so when you run Rufus the very first time, I could say no to this. I don't need it to go for updates. All right, and now if we change this style to MBR for either, we have a choice of FreeDOS already showed up. So that's the default behavior. Just change to MBR, partition scheme, BIOS or UEFI. You get the chance to image it with FreeDOS. And now you're able to destroy the contents of whatever is on there. So let me show you in disk management what's on there before and after destruction here. Okay, so ESXi, remember I told you it looks weird? I wasn't kidding. All right, and if you try to do a format from Windows Explorer, you end up with a small drive, not the full capacity. So I have another copy of Explorer opened up to this PC, and there's no D drive or anything else. So it's kind of a wonky drive that you're not going to find with easy right-click format. That's why I'm showing you Rufus. All right, so Rufus, we click Start, and it makes a bootable DOS drive out of it and warns me that I'm about to nuke everything on this drive, and that's okay. In my case, that's why you clearly label things, so you don't make a mistake. Okay, I can close that. And now let's head back to Launch, USB Image Tool. All right, here we go. We now have a drive that will not give us an error when we go to restore to it, excuse me. And this is, again, a good time for a little break, and you can walk away. When it's done, it'll be all set. You've got an image file and a USB device. And here's the kicker. We're going to boot from this target, right? We want to make darn sure before we go messing around with updating anything that we have a valid backup. What better way than to take the image file that we archive on our hard drive, restore it to a USB drive labeled target, boot from that target. If everything seems to work fine, you've got a pretty good feeling and peace of mind that the source that you safely store somewhere in that disk image is all good. Both are valid backups should you have to revert if trouble arises when you do the upgrade. So hopefully now you get the whole point of this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause recording until we get to the end here. It takes a while, as we talked about, and USB drives are even slower at writes than they are reads. So of course this took quite a bit longer to write the entire drive. All 32 gig, I believe, is what's transferred. So again, all these Windows tools don't really have awareness of the file system the way ESXi lays things out. So you're better off with the device mode, complete clone of the drive, and it just finished. So I'm done. Let me just do a quick look at the other tabs. Anything there to show you? Okay. Some stuff. I would strongly encourage you to donate to this author. If you like a tool like this to stick around, do what I do and send him some money, okay? Please consider that, especially if you find value in this, especially if it saves your bacon one day. Let's head back here. And I'll just close down by saying, oh yeah, ejecting it. Let's see if that works this time. Interesting, that's not showing the device again. So that's just the nature of the beast, I would say. If we look at Disk Manager again, you're going to see those same kind of partition layout. Pretty good evidence that it built the drive correctly. It looks exactly like it should. And we can actually eject properly from there. Now the drive's ejected. On your system, if you're near it, you should hear a tone, and it's ready for you to pop out the drive. Of course, we are not done yet. It's time to put the drive into the server and power it back up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that now. And of course, we're powered down currently. Be right back after putting the drive in. Just a moment. Okay, I put the drive back in the server. And it's labeled. It's the target drive that was kind of warm to the touch because I'd just written to it for a long time. And it's time to power the server back up. So this is really kind of the drum roll moment. Making sure that it boots just fine, as you would expect. And we have the BIOS coming up on the right. So if you get ESXi booted just fine, you're able to log in and run VMs and so forth, then yeah, you're good to go. You have that peace of mind to go ahead and try things like update ESXi 6.7 fearlessly, or try one build or another from your environment, 6.5 update 1 versus 6.5 update 2 fearlessly, keeping a library of images for that machine, for that MAC address, for that host name, all of it. So it is married to that particular bit of hardware. You could put it on a different machine. You may have some issues with the service console, I'll just point out. That's why I labeled it with the actual host name, right? So if you stick it in the same machine, you're unlikely to have any issues whatsoever. We've done a bit-for-bit clone of the entire copy of the entire contents of this USB drive. And that means there's no new hardware to find or anything. It's just the boot device, which is loaded into RAM. And the speed of it, by the way, whether it's USB 2.0 or 3.0, it never mattered to your VMs. Your VMs don't care. ESXi hypervisor just loads into RAM. There's very little write activity on the bootable media. There is an exception for larger vSAN installs where you're going to want to use M.2. So more modern servers, you'll have M.2 mirrors, RAID 1, pairs of M.2 gum sticks, HCI or SATA versions. Those are kind of slow, but they're affordable and much more write endurance for some environments where you actually will be writing to that media a little. Way more reliable than SD. So admittedly, this video is very much home lab focused, where it's super handy to have USB drives that'll probably last for years. I've had several kicking around for at least 4 or 5 years of these same drives in my home lab without any incidents. So apparently ESXi is booting up just fine, and we can see that on the right. And that's exactly what I was expecting, including the build number. And actually we can now have a look. So remember I wrote down build number 6125, and there it is, right? So soon ESXi will be done booting. I can go ahead and log in and then just comfortably move on with what I was planning to do. And again, the actual next piece I plan to record is the update 6.5 to 6.7 process, following along with my own article right here to do that. And I'm also going to go ahead and donate, as I encouraged you to do as well. So we translate that page. We do a one-shot donation to the author, Alexander in Germany, which I'm more than happy to do. Okay, so we're back up and backed up and logging in to the host client. So we should get username, password, login here, and soon we'll see that nothing has changed, including network. There's the 4 physical NICs. All this stuff should be exactly where you left it. There's no reason to expect any change here. So that's it. I'm done. Done with this operation of cloning USB media, again, which should work with SD cards. I read about that a bit in the USB image tool forums. So thank you for watching, and thank you for visiting TinkerTry IT at Home. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel as well. Thank you.